Good morning, students. We have started pre-board preparation of all chapters. In the last class, we have discussed plant tissues. In today's class, let us discuss animal tissues. Animal tissues, there are 4 types of animal tissues. This classification has been made based on their function. The 4 types of animal tissues are epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissues. First tissue, epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue, it is the outer covering protective tissue. Epi means above, thelium means layer. So like outer covering layer, epithelial tissue is present above all organs and cavities within the body. Epithelial tissue acts as barrier to keep different body systems separate. The cells of epithelial tissue are tightly packed so that they can form a continuous sheet, and very little cementing substance is present between the cells of epithelial tissue, and generally intercellular spaces are absent between the cells of epithelial tissue in order to maintain the intactness. Every substance that enters or exits, say, leaves from the body, every substance that enters the body or that leaves from the body must cross at least one layer of epithelial tissue. So, in order to allow the movement of substance across the cells of epithelial tissue, permeability of cells of epithelial tissue, it regulates the exchange of materials between the environment and organism, and in between the organs or in between different parts of the body. There are different types of epithelial tissue. The major epithelial tissues are 3 types. They are squamous epithelial tissue, columnar epithelial tissue, and cuboidal epithelial tissue. The cells of squamous epithelial tissue are flat. The cells of columnar epithelial tissue are cylindrical, and the cells of cuboidal epithelial tissue are cube-like. Coming to first, squamous. The squamous epithelial tissue is of again 2 types: simple squamous epithelial tissue and stratified squamous epithelial tissue. The columnar epithelial tissue is of again 2 types: simple columnar epithelial tissue and ciliated columnar epithelial tissue. The cuboidal epithelial tissue is also of 2 types: simple cuboidal epithelial tissue and glandular epithelial tissue. Coming to the first one, squamous epithelial tissue. In that simple squamous epithelial tissue, a single layer of flat cells are present in simple squamous epithelial tissue. It is generally for selective permeability, and simple squamous epithelial tissue is present covering the lining of blood vessels, covering the lining of alveoli, covering the lining of esophagus and mouth or oral cavity. The cells of simple squamous epithelial tissue are thin, flat, with delicate lining that allows the exchange of various materials like respiratory gases, final digested end products, excretory wastes, etc. Columnar epithelial tissue. Simple columnar epithelial tissue. I didn't explain about stratified. Stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Stratum means layer. Strata means many layers. Stratified squamous epithelial tissue is present in skin. By having many layers of squamous epithelial tissue, skin is able to prevent wear and tear that are generally caused by various environmental pressures. So only because skin of the complex animal offers protection from various environmental pressures, so that it must not be in only one layer, it must be in many layers, so that it can prevent wear and tear. Columnar epithelial tissue. Simple columnar epithelial tissue. It is mainly meant for absorption and secretion. Both absorption and secretion functions are carried out by the inner lining of intestine. In terms of secretion, the inner lining of intestine releases the intestinal juices. In terms of absorption, inner lining of small intestine absorbs the final digested end products through its villi, and excess large volumes of water are absorbed by inner lining of large intestine through its villi. So, this columnar epithelial tissue plays the role. There is another type of columnar epithelial tissue, that is ciliated columnar epithelial tissue. When compared to simple columnar epithelial tissue, the ciliated columnar epithelial tissue has hair-like structures or cilia above the cells. This ciliated columnar epithelial tissue is present in respiratory tract. The hair-like cilia, they make the mucus to move forward so that the dust-trapped mucus can be thrown out of the respiratory tract. Next, cuboidal epithelial tissue. Simple cuboidal epithelial tissue, it is mainly meant for mechanical support, where liquids move with the force in such vessels like tubules of kidneys, proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule, like that, and ducts of salivary glands, where saliva will be moving out. Glandular epithelium. Portion of epithelial tissue in certain endocrine glands, it folds inwards and forms multicellular glands that releases their respective secretions. After epithelial tissue, next tissue is connective tissue. Connective tissue connects all parts of the body. In connective tissue, a specified framework will be present. Every type of connective tissue consists of matrix, cells suspended in matrix, and fibers. In connective tissue, the cells are loosely placed and present in an intercellular matrix. The matrix may be of jelly type or fluid type or dense or rigid. Nature of the matrix decides the function of connective tissue. Or nature of the matrix is in accordance with the function of a connective tissue. There are various types of connective tissues. Fluid connective tissues and solid connective tissues, both are going to be explained now. Example for fluid connective tissue. One and only fluid connective tissue is blood. Blood has fluid matrix called blood plasma and blood cells present in this blood plasma. The blood cells present in blood plasma are red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. The blood plasma contains proteins, salts, and hormones like substances also along with these blood cells. The function of blood is it transports the respiratory gases, digested food, hormones, and metabolic wastes to different parts of the body. Next, bone. Bone has hard matrix, and the matrix of bone is made up of calcium and phosphorus compounds. Bone forms the framework of the body. It provides the anchorage to the muscles and support the main internal organs. Bone is the strong, non-flexible connective tissue. Next, ligament. Two bones are connected by ligament. Ligament is highly elastic and it has considerable strength only. And ligament has very less matrix in it. Next, tendons. Tendons connect muscle and bone. Tendons connect muscle and bone. It is the fibrous tissue with great strength and limited flexibility, opposite to ligament. Ligament have high flexibility and limited strength. Here tendons have great strength but limited flexibility. Cartilage. Cartilage has widely spaced cells, and like bone, it also has solid matrix. But unlike bone, wherein the matrix was made up of calcium and phosphorus compounds, here cartilage matrix is made up of proteins and sugars. Cartilage smoothens the bones or bones surfaces at joints. Cartilage is present in nose, ear, trachea, and larynx. Cartilage is present in nose, ear, trachea, and larynx. Cartilage provides mechanical flexibility. Next connective tissue is areolar connective tissue. It is present between skin and muscles. It is present around the blood vessels. and around the nerves and in bone marrow. Areolar connective tissue is present around the blood vessels, around the nerves, and in bone marrow. Areolar connective tissue fills the space inside the organs and it supports the internal organs and it helps in the repair of tissues. Areolar connective tissue fills the space inside the organs and it supports the internal organs and it helps in the repair of tissues. Adipose tissue. In adipose tissue, fats are stored. Adipose tissue is present below the skin and between organs. The cells of adipose tissue are filled with fat globules. As fat does not allow the heat to escape, the storage of fats makes the adipose tissue to act as insulator, so that especially during the winter, the inner heat from the body of the animal will not be getting escaped from the body of the animal. With this, 2 animal tissues are completed. The another 2 animal tissues let us discuss in the next class. Thank you.